Guys, let's fucking go, man. This is the third time I've been. This is the third time I've had to record this video. First time it was too long. I forget. I only had 15 minutes to freaking talk about my shit. Second time, I was locked in, got it right at 14:30, and went to freaking play it on my YouTube, and there was no fucking audio. Jesus. Third time is the charm, baby. Let's freaking go, man. I would like to finally go over Friday, give a little bit recap about how this week went as a whole, and what my plan is for next week. Friday was pretty great, man. I started off red. I lost my first two trades, and I had the discipline to be patient at open for the play that made sense, and that's exactly what happened. Just speaking on the week, Monday started off a little rough. I don't remember if I was red Monday or not, but it definitely was a like, I don't know, I just wasn't following my rules. The discipline was a little shaky. I cleaned that shit up. I did have a pretty close call on one of the other mornings too. But more of the stories, I cleaned up the discipline. I stuck to my rules. I kept things simple, and I ended the week pretty freaking green. And I'm happy about that, especially going into next week. So the year's been pretty good. And I'm looking to just continue to build on that, continue to build on my consistency, my discipline, hone in on my strategy, and that's it. Like I said, keep things simple and be patient. Again, like I said, let's just go over the trades that I had for Friday real quick. I started off with UOKA. This thing has popped several times over the past couple months, mainly earlier in the month. So when I seen this name, it was definitely familiar, and I wanted to give it a shot. You know, I really don't like trading pennies, but this past week there's been a lot of pennies, and I've been getting more used to trading these. I've sized up into these. I'm not taking like puny size on them anymore. Like, I'm stepping up to the plate. I'm putting size on the table, and things are working out a little better for these pennies. So I'm feeling more confident trading them. We got this pop at 7 right here. Definitely had me looking at it. This was kind of like a little 5-minute pullback here. I didn't touch it there. Volume was still pretty low. I got interested when I seen this increase in volume right here at around 7:30. Once I seen this thing break this previous high, and then it started pull it back again, I took a position off of VWAP right here. Kind of had this flag look right here. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's at 8 a.m. Talking about, okay, I gotta zoom in so we can see the volume a little bit. Okay, so here we go. So this is more of like a low volume push, but once I saw this sharp increase right here, this obvious increase, this is when I got interested again. I took a starter, I'm sorry, not a starter. I took a position off VWAP. It dipped a little below, came back up, dipped a little below. Once this dipped right here, I'm like, okay, I'm going to risk this. I had a pretty good entry, so I'm like, you know what, I'll give it 1 cent a share, whatever. Tried to pop right here. The volume was just really low on this, so, I wanted to see it push through this high, make new highs right here. Unfortunately, ended up just selling off, and once it tapped once, tapped twice, around my wrist level, I just cut it. I was like, you know what? If it's not going my way, like especially on this pullback and the volume increased, I want to see this thing go pretty quick. And, the longer it's just consolidating, and I'm just like, yeah, it's not worth it for me. So, took a small loss right there. And go figure, at 8 a.m., this thing caught, it sold off. After 8 a.m., got some more volume, and it made a nice move right here. I got interested again because look at the increase in volume right here. We're not trading on low volume anymore. We're getting some real volume coming in. 500,000 here, a mill candle right here. I just missed this. That's it. I was at work. I was trading from work, off my laptop, which is fine. I do pretty well when I do that. But people were freaking bugging me, distracting me, and I did miss this first dip, which I probably would have taken a stab on if I was being able to pay attention to it. But I missed this, ripped out of this flag. Even more interested right here on this pullback, because look at this. We held this pivot right here. It was kind of like more like a 3-bar. Made a big push. We still have consistent volume coming in, even more volume coming in. I want to buy that next 5-minute pullback, and I just happened to miss this. So it gave us one pullback, second pullback, and once I was finally able to sit down and watch it, we were starting to create this third pullback right here. And as this was happening, SUNE started popping, and this one was also a familiar name. And actually, more recently, it made a move on heavy volume throughout the day. Let's get to where that was. As soon as I heard SUNE popping, I was like, okay, this thing's a familiar name. Let's see what's going on. So this was from yesterday, this big move yesterday. I was more focused on the move that it made previously on the 7th. Like I said, look at this heavy volume right here. Well, this is the 4 hour, but just to give us a little picture. So the overall picture was, are we setting up to test these levels? And there's also a fat gap on the daily. So again, once I seen it pop, and I didn't rush into it. I took my time. I tried to build like a narrative on it, and a thesis, and I tried to, build why it would make sense to trade this. And it did make sense why this was setting up. So again, we have this big gap on the daily. It tried to break into it right here, on that day that a lot of volume came in, and then it pulled back on the daily. But now we're getting a pop again, and I think my whole idea was that we're setting up to break a bigger picture level. And as I was starting to, put this together in my brain, that's why I was getting confident trading it. So let's see what happened. So this was that first push at 8 a.m. This is when I first started looking at it. Look at this volume come in. And my idea behind it was that now that UOKA had a pretty nice run, it's on its third 5-minute pullback. It's starting to pull back, starting to fail a little bit, if you will. I expected volume to rotate over to SUNE. This thing's a low float. I'm pretty sure it had a catalyst on Friday. Something about repaying secured loans. I don't really care what it is. Had a catalyst. People are looking at it. And once this thing got attention right here and the volume came in, I was glued on this first 5-minute pullback right here. Look at this clear pivot right here. We got one here. We got one here. I personally marked a line right here at this 5-minute pivot, and I took a starter. Let's mark it out. I need to stop saying starter. I took a position right here off of VWAP. Right on these 2 wicks, I took a position right here. That's for the first 5-minute pullback. I think I had like a 40-cent average. This pivot was about 39, so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give it about 1 cent per share risk. I kept it simple. I'm like, if it breaks under this 39, I'm just going to cut it, give it more time, because I wanted to see this thing get scooped up, and I just wanted to see it rip for new highs. My target was this 44.50s. Again, setting up for the bigger picture play, that 52s level on the daily. And again, that just made sense to me. It was getting the volume. I wanted volume to start coming in from UOKA kind of breaking down. And it did not. It did give a little pop right here. It gave a nice little pop, but the volume was kind of lower. And then once I seen this big red candle and it broke under 39s, I cut it quick. I just cut it quick. I was like, you know what? Not worth it. If it's not going to go right now, I think it's just going to need more time. And I didn't want to get caught in something choppy. And then I was kind of just waiting till open. GV started making a move. Not really going to talk too much about GV because it did this the other day, made a massive pre-market move and sold right off. The only thing that was interesting about this GV move was it actually broke above the other day's high that it made in pre-market. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, are we setting up for a bigger picture play? Are we going to test this level over here? And I ended up just dumping it open. Not much to talk about there. I'm not even going to waste my time. I did not trade GV. I did see it. But again, I was just being patient. Going into open. But I think what set apart my day was that, bad habits were coming in. Bad habit thoughts were coming in. I seen this thing popping right here. I'm like, oh, maybe I should just take another trade, see how it goes. I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to. I'm like, I'm going to be patient. I'm not going to do these little choppy plays. The volume's light. I'm like, let me set myself apart from my other mistakes. I'm like, I'm just going to wait. And then once we got into open, I seen this thing start to rip. And I was like, okay. I was like, the idea that I put together, the storyboard I put together, makes sense now. Because right out of open, this thing got nice volume and broke above pre-market highs. That was like my first trigger. I'm like, okay, this is a good setup because we just broke pre-market highs. Now I'm definitely thinking that we have the potential to test that 52s level. And look at this first 5-minute pullback right here. This thing got bought up instantly. That gave me more conviction. I'm like, okay, people are seeing this. It's getting attention and it's getting volume. Where I personally traded it was right here. Once this thing made this big 5-minute move and then began to pull back over this pre-market high, I was locked in. I'm telling you, I was patient. I had my finger on the trigger. As soon as this thing tapped VWAP, that first 1 minute 20, EMA, which is about the 5-minute EMA on the 5, I slapped the ask right here. Once it broke like 47s, I'm like, if it breaks 47s and we're in the 46s right now, you know, and I'm getting relatively close to this, you know, this support area, this risk off, what I'm expecting to be support, I took an entry in immediate resolution. I'm talking about this thing just started to rip. Look at this lower volume pullback, the first proper 5-minute pullback that we got. I mean, this is kind of like a 5-minute pullback, but this is like a, you know, this is more like it kind of looks like a 5-minute 3-bar. Again, I kind of wanted to be patient. I wanted to see that thing continue. I wanted to see a breakout of this, you know, 1-minute flag, if you would. And then this pullback right here, I was locked in. I was watching it right here. I was starting to get a little impatient, but again, I was maintaining my discipline. I'm like, that's just not where I do the best. I'm like, it could go right here, and that's fine. But I wanted that first 5-minute ATAP. I wanted VWAP because I know that's where the majority of people are going to be looking to get a good entry. Then as soon as I snagged my entry right here, it was like instant in the green. Started to rip. I did shave some profits right here when it was coming up to 51s. I'm like, just in case, you know what I mean? Again, I'm looking for base hits, and this was an easy base hit to get. It worked quick. I took about half off once we were getting over 51s. I mean, that was like, I think I had 47s, you know. I'm already up 4 or 5 cents a share. I'm like, you know what, I'm definitely going to lock in some profits on a Friday. And then that 52s, or I'm sorry, you know, I was looking for new high a day on this, really. Like I said, I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to keep it something that I can repeat. Broke through new high a day. There was a lot of asks up here, a lot of sellers. They were getting shipped down. Broke through. And then I started scaling my profits over high a day. Started scaling out, and I, you know, I took from about 47s, maybe even like high 46s, all the way up to 51s, 52s, 53s for a nice freaking base hit, man. And this thing made sense. I locked in on that first 5-minute pullback. And this thing gave us a huge move, man. That idea that I had, that I created, that I seen on the daily, made sense. And that's why I was so confident. I didn't even hesitate. Once that thing gave me my pullback, I just freaking flicked the trigger. I'm like, if this thing doesn't work, if it starts to pull back more and it just looks ugly, I'm like, I'll just cut it. And I'll take my freaking red day. It'll be fine. But I knew this thing had a setup going on. If we could break above this 52s, which was just so happened to be new high a day right here, I was like, this thing has the potential to go higher. Unfortunately, looking back, I didn't trade it again. And I definitely could have, but again, that's just not my plan right now. My goal is to nail this first 5-minute setup. The lowest risk makes the most sense. Going to be the most explosive breakout. Even though we did have, you know, a nice second 5-minute flag right here. I mean, this is beautiful. I just didn't take it. And that's fine. Am I going to take these in the future? Absolutely. I'm going to eventually, once I'm nailing these first, I'm going to branch out. Now, you know, I'm going to nail this first one, and I'm going to freaking take the second one. Third 5-minute pullback, you know, the first and second are the best. The third, going to be a little more iffy on it. A little bit of a higher risk as we start to get extended. But this first one, the second one, even maybe this, you know, 1-minute flag right here, these are the best opportunities. And look, it happened 3 times. Look at this. Scooped up at VWAP, scooped up at VWAP, scooped up at VWAP. And that the bigger picture play just ended up working out. And again, that was what I told myself this week. That's what I explained in my other videos, is I need to trade things that make sense, and SUNE made plenty of sense to trade. And it ended up being great. I went from red to green, almost hit my daily goal, ended the week good. And I'm like, you know what? That's it. I turned it off for the day. And I left this here for me to study, for me to go over, and I'm going to be looking for the same thing next week. Same shit. Nice moves, things that make sense, have catalysts, giving us a nice 5-minute pullback. That first 5-minute pullback, that second 5-minute pullback. Yeah, I'm just going to keep hammering the strategy. I'm going to start sizing up into these because I'm feeling more confident on them. I know where I make my money. I know where I lose it. So I'm going to start putting my foot on the gas when I know that I have the opportunity. Again, the market was a little slower this week, but we still have opportunities every day. So, like, is it really that slow? I don't know. I mean, some people are struggling. Some people are not. I was able to have a good week despite all the choppiness. You just got to be more patient. You got to be pickier. You got to have more confirmation. But when things heat up, we can bring the bar for confirmation lower and really pedal in. But that's all I got. I'm about to be over 15 minutes. Let's go, baby. I'll see you guys next week.